Hello, I'm Oral Gibbs, and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live. I have a very, very, very special young lady with me. So,
Yeah.
young lady is smiling already.
Yes.
You're going to meet her in a while. All right? Before we start, I want to let you know that we have two great sponsors for this program. The Windward Islands Bank in Phillipsburg, Simpson Bay, and on Bush Road in Cul-de-sac. The Windward Islands Bank for all your banking needs. You want a car, you want a house, whatever you want financially. It's a Windward Islands Bank. And GEBE, our local water and electricity company. GEBE, serving St. Martin for over 6 decades. GEBE. And with me this evening, I have the first minister, I always say this lady is the first minister of education in St. Martin, Dr. Arrindell. How are you doing, Dr. Arrindell?
I'm fine. Good evening to you and to your viewers.
Good to have you. I think I'm the only person, I'm the only person who always introduce you like that, right? Or somebody else? Or
Right.
Fabian too?
Well, Fabian's a friend. Yeah, right? Yeah, that's cool. That's like, oh, what was that?
We have a tendency of forgetting what people do in this art, you know?
Yeah. But I know, I'm good. As we say, I'm good.
Well, it's good to have you here on this eve of International Women's Day too, right?
Today, actually.
Yeah.
Today, yes, we can say Happy International Women's Day to all the ladies out there in the universe.
And you're also one of those trailblazers, as a lady.
I don't know. Trailblazer. I was telling somebody today, Harriet's granddaughter of some sort.
Yeah. But you've really done a lot. You also have a radio program with Fabian Badajo, Culture Time on Sundays.
Well, actually Fabian has a program. I'm piggybacking.
But you're president of the St. Martin Association, what's it called?
One St. Martin Association, or sometimes One SXM Association.
One SXM. And this One SXM is an association with the primary goal of political independence for St. Martin?
Yes, sir. What we say is that our mission statement is that we believe that we can serve as a conduit, right, for the actualization of political independence. But basically, the mission really is the objective is to bring St. Martin people together, right? Both sides of the island, working on every area, whether it is sports, it is literature, it is who we are in terms of our cultural values. So what we try to do every week on our radio program is to highlight St. Martin's both north and south, and try to go back to a lot of those core St. Martin values, and we try to inform our people and especially our visitors and our local population that this is what we have. That's the whole objective.
And the show is Saturday, you say?
Every Saturday.
From what time to what?
From 5 to 7 p.m. on my 88.3 FM.
You know, when you look at St. Martin, and St. Martin people traditionally very independent.
Yes.
People, both sides, north and south.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you look at our situation today, it doesn't look like that.
No. That ain't that sad?
It is.
Ain't that sad? Because I remember I was telling that to some students a few months ago, that when we were growing up, my mother's motto, and just I think every Caribbean parent would be like that, like, if you don't have, do it out, right? My mother was like one of those people, like, if you didn't have, do it out. That was like the motto, which means I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to go anywhere and ask for something. I will make do with what I have. And also, growing up, I remember we would lean on each other, right? You would go by Miss Gussie and borrow a cup of sugar, or somebody would come in. When you hear borrow, you expect the sugar going to come back, but it ain't coming back. But you could always do that, right? You can always depend on each other to exchange. You have something I don't have, etc. And so, a proud people, an independent people. I grew up in Sucker Garden, right? And my dad, when we got back here from Curacao, had to build our house from scratch. But building it from scratch also meant I remember them building the blocks in the yard. Like they would literally cast the blocks in the yard, and then eventually, so those were that they would, let's say they would make blocks this week, they would use those from last week. And that's how I remember that. I was still small, but I remember that being the norm in my village in Sucker Garden when we were growing up.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of that
But
anymore.
I think things have changed over the years.
Yeah.
And I remember Daniela Jeffrey speaking about our people and how independent they were, and now today.
Like we're like beggars. We reduce the beggars.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sad thing.
But we need to do something about that.
That's how we feel. That's how we feel as on 1 September. One of the things that even before remember the march on the frontier when the roads were blocked, when they had blocked the frontier over a year ago.
Yeah.
We were just at that time trying to put, the platform together, trying to start the radio program. We wanted to do articles, and then that happened, right? And no, that happened like the week after we had started officially with the week after. So when it happened, we were in our meetings one day and we were like, this can't be, this is not who we are as St. Martin and where we go. So at some point, you have an observation, you have an obligation, right? That's another motto I learned, that you can sit down here, you can talk about it, you can complain about it, or you can do something about it.
Yeah.
And those of us that were there at the time was like, well, let's do this. And I remember at the blockade, walking over to Franz Richardson, and he was like, oh, so you here? No, I was like, yeah, how long I here? I said, but you always, he said, when you gonna come see me? I said, y'all always say this, but you know what I want, you know what we need.
Right.
And he was like, what do you need? I said, we need radio time. Right now we don't have a budget, we don't have anything, but we want to do this organization. We've been, trying to get people to get involved and get on board. And I said, we don't have, and Franz says, really? He said, okay, come in. And when I sat with him, he was like, pick a day of the week. Whatever day of the week you want, you can start. And he said, and I said, when can we start? He said, whenever you want. I said, okay, next week. And he didn't, I don't know if he thought we were serious, but we were serious. So like the week after the blockade, that big demonstration, and we were like, okay, we're gonna start with a radio program. What we gonna call it? And we were sitting in the room, and I remember Alston Lawrence, he's part of the team too. And Alston said, 1 6, huh? I said, you serious? That simple? He was like, yeah, because that was what the whole goal and the mission and all of that was. And so within a week, we were on air with the 1 6M radio program, and we were ready to go.
So now, how many years since?
We're a little over a year.
Oh,
We had our first anniversary last year.
What about the Independence for St. Martin Foundation? I know you're also in that, right?
I'm the secretary of the foundation. Okay. We still exist, the foundation, and if you understand the structure of a foundation, there's only so much you can do with a foundation structure, and the majority of the members on the foundation also have had their share of licks, I should say, right? Been in this thing for a very long time, and we were talking about how to get younger blood involved, but with the foundation structure, it's very difficult. So that was one of the reasons to move to an association.
Okay.
So with the association, we have a lot more younger people. We have our membership can be individuals, can be groups, can be organizations, and so far we have a number of groups that are members of the association already.
So you have a lot of people in?
We have membership, and we have we have unions, we have different ethnic groups that have signed on, and then we have individual members.
That's very good.
Yeah.
You went to Parliament just recently.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
We went to Parliament because that was one of the other things, because we want to bring our message and the information regarding independence. That's we don't make any secret about what we want to do, but we're also saying, how do we get people to understand what it is we're doing? You hear people talking, you hear people making up their own version of what they think that we are about. Right. And we had already, as the Independence for St. Martin Foundation, we had already gone to Parliament 6 years ago asking, can we have a referendum on independence? So we too in the association, or at that time the foundation, we could start to, inform, because we know we are pro-independence. But can we have a referendum to hear what the people think? We had gone there, then we were told to come back, make another presentation. We needed to present to the petitions committee. That was the last thing they told us. We wrote a letter, we applied, we did another presentation, and we didn't hear anything. 2016 the hurricane came, 2017 was the hurricane, but nothing, So I was explaining this to the younger ones in the 1SXM one day. Like, we'd gone to Parliament, and somebody was like, well, let's go back to Parliament then. Let's go to Parliament and here we want to be heard. And so we approached I think it's called the Ad Hoc Committee for Constitutional Reform. And through the chairmanship of MP Heiliger Martin, sent a letter and say, can you give us an audience? And they honored us, and so on Tuesday, we had the opportunity to present what we would say is a draft resolution, because we were like, don't beat around the bush anymore. Here's what we propose. And what we propose is that we would like for Parliament to call a referendum.
And how were you received in Parliament?
I was asked a similar question. We were received, in all honesty, I want to say in all honesty that 9 of the 9 members, in principle, let me say it like that, think a referendum is a good thing. You had resistance from, in particular, the PFP faction. And why I call it, and MP Westcott had said something, but it wasn't, I didn't interpret that as resistance, as more like a decision needs to be made. Because basically a decision has to be made that we want to have a referendum, then there's a law that is drafted, etc. And so that's what I got from MP Westcott, and that would be the UD. The other members that were present pretty much said, yeah, let's do it. If one MP, I think it's MP Duncan, Ludmila Duncan, said basically, if not now, when? When do we go and ask the people, if not now? Where the PFP faction was concerned, what MP Gums was saying, in principle, she didn't have a problem with the referendum. They played politics with it, as they normally do. But in principle, she didn't have a problem with the referendum, and welcome that our students abroad would also get an opportunity to vote in a referendum like that. And so we now believe that Parliament at least has to respond to us. So we will inform them this week, that we're expecting to hear what the next step is. And we are hoping that Parliament will take us seriously and call a referendum.
The last time we held one was 24th of June 2000, right?
Right. You remember the date? Good.
Yeah. Well, I voted for political independence, so I can't forget the dates at all.
Me too.
I voted both 2 times, in
right.
1994 and 2000. Yeah. So I am not one of the Johnny-come-latelys.
Right.
There are a lot of people now see that sexy and so forth.
Right, it's like an in thing now, right? Yeah.
But
and they go and
matter.
Come with it. They go and come as it goes. But we believe that, first of all, we believe that independence is the right way to go, and we believe that independence is something that we have been preparing, but we need to stop stalling. But even before that, what we're saying as 1SXM, consult the people, have a conversation with our people, inform them of the pros and cons, like you would do in a regular referendum, but go to the people and hear what they feel about independence. Because for us too, in the movement, in the foundation, we too want to know, where the St. Martin people stand on this issue. We know that it's the best option for us as a people. We know that it's the option that will give our people the opportunity to expand to their fullest and to really be in charge of their own destiny. That's what we believe, and we want to hear where the rest of the population stands on this. Yeah.
Do you believe that we need a strong leader in order to really push this independence movement in terms of a political leader?
A political leader? That's an interesting question. This is how I see it, right? And I don't know if everybody, and even within the association when we exchange ideas, you have different degrees of agreement and then of how, right? The way I see it is like this. You need to first know what the destination is, right? So you need to choose independence. And for me, once you table the referendum, and that's the decision that the people want, then you need leadership to transition you to independence, right? Because I don't think you need to wait on a so-called strong, because I sometimes when I hear people talk about, oh, the leaders, and it's as if they think this savior is going to appear magically from somewhere.
But let me say, your friend and my friend, Junior Lake,
yes,
who has been like all of us,
yes,
from the beginning.
The get-go, right.
He always said to me on the program, Caribbean people follow the leader.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
And if you look at the history of the independence movement within this region of the world, they've always been very strong leaders.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember interviewing Betico Cruz before Aruba got its independence. That was in 1980. He was here in St. Martin. At the time, I was working for PGD2 Radio. And you could sense the determination.
Right.
This man was like a bulldog. He's like, this is what I want.
Right.
This is what I'm gonna get. I don't care what Holland thinks. I don't care what.
It's not about Holland, and people gotta forget.
About my people.
It's not about Holland. It's not about France. It's not about America. It's about the people of St. Martin, right? Or Betty. So where that's concerned, and this is why we believe in the independence. In the 106M, we've had this conversation that we believe that once the people have chosen to become independent in a referendum, because we believe that independence is a nonpartisan thing, right? That I believe that it's either a yes or a no. The yes camp should campaign to win, and the no camp will also campaign, right? Because you're going to have those people who are not for independence. And so I believe that the leadership in terms of the transition to independence, once a decision is made in the referendum, either they emerge or it will be somebody that we know. But I don't think it has to be anyone that we know today. Some people say like, yeah, but not those. I honestly feel in my spirit, I feel in my spirit it will be a younger, progressive, somebody who believes in it, who's always been for it. It's not going to be somebody who will wishy-washy and we ain't too sure. Because when you hear people use the Brexit example, right, which I think is a little crazy, but even in that situation, think of it. When the then Prime Minister realized that independence, at least Brexit had won, he said that wasn't the call I was making. I think I should step down because I don't think I'm the one to lead you into this. And so look what we have today, right? But actually, coming out of that, I think the right thing to do, if you didn't believe in it and you didn't push for it, you can't be the person to lead us into it. So when people get into the conversation about the leaders, from what I see there, I don't think it's going to be anybody who's there who doesn't believe in it. It has to be somebody who is convicted, who believes, and who also can say to the people, I'm competent and I'm capable, you can trust me, I'm trustworthy, etc., for the people to follow.
Let me go back to November 11, 1991. November 11, 1991, Claude gave his last speech on St. Martin Day.
So you know these things.
Well, I was head of the Government Information Service at the time, and I was very close to him. And I have the original speech that he did with all the notes and everything.
Question, but go ahead.
And that was a speech that ended his political career also.
Really?
That offended the Dutch and the French, two European powers that control this island. So if you ever have a chance...
And what was the speech? The speech said we should be independent, right? Is the political independence?
It was more than that.
Yeah.
But why we as Caribbean people had to be careful because we need to take our own destiny in our own hands. It's a very powerful speech, and I posted it on Facebook. It's been shared like 100 and something times.
Right.
The thing is that the reason why I bring that up is that St. Martin is a unique island. It's French and Dutch. And France. France is always...
Shoot on people.
France is not going to walk away so easily.
Okay.
Have you all discussed that with your friends on the French side?
Not just the French, but St. Martinans. Because again, we are one family before France, right? And yeah, we know France. We also know the spirit of our ancestors. So when you think of France, think of how Toussaint just beat them and won the Haitian Revolution, right? So we believe we're more connected to that spirit, right? But in all honesty, we have talked with some, even people who are now running in elections, we've had these conversations. We know that both sides will go eventually. We know it. We don't know which side will go first. Most likely the South will go first. We are preparing as if we are going anyway. But we're also having conversations. And we also know, based on our history as an island, that in spite of the division, when something happens on one side, it automatically affects. So we're not even concerned about what France wants, because we also know we have access to other international bodies, especially like the UN, that recognizes the right of a people to remain intact as a people, to remain intact as a family. And St. Martin people are a family.
Yeah.
So we ain't worrying about
a family until forces come in, because you remember 1995 after Hurricane Lois? Well, I was on the border, and they had closed the border. Yeah. And people were screaming because they want to come back over to the Dutch side. Yeah. Okay, and I was pushed by French soldiers with guns. Okay. And then I called. At that time, it was Dennis Richardson, Lieutenant Governor. I said, "What's going on here?" To show you, the first time in our lifetime that we can recall that the border was closed was after Hurricane Lois, 1995, right? Okay. And then what happened just now during the COVID pandemic, it was done again.
Yeah, it could close, we can open it.
Yeah, you know, but
close it, we open it.
You know, it shows you, here you have two European powers with enormous amount of control over us. When you look at the SXM Association and independence, how you feel about the population? You feel that the population is really ready for this scene, that we're so dependent on Dutch liquidity support and French government support?
Hey, I like the question. This was like, how we feel about it. Well, we will know in the referendum for sure how people feel, right? That's what the referendum is all about.
People should tell you.
People are telling us every day, go ahead, do it, right? Today I did an interview, and before I could reach home, apparently a message was sent. What is encouraging about the messages that we keep getting, me, different members of the association, you know, if it was just the younger people, it wouldn't be no problem. But you have elders in St. Martin community. That encourages me. I mean, we are doing this for the future generation, right? We're saying this is about the young ones running the show and being in control. But when you have elders, I was one day walking across the street to the police station. This gentleman, I don't know him. He knows me. I don't even know if he will see this and remember. I'm walking around. He said, "Stop." He said, "You Rhoda Arrindell right now." I was like, "Okay." So I thought he was thinking of me from the days of the ministry, right? And he basically said, "I didn't think I might live to see it, you know, but I think it will happen before I go." He said, "Just keep pushing, just keep." See, we get those kinds of messages from elders who want it, I have somebody who right now, one of our advisors and mentors, if he's watching, he follows everything on independence. He has shown up to some of our meetings. He is waiting for that day. But he was like, he's been so disappointed over the years. And so we're saying, look, independence isn't about us individually. Independence is about St. Martin collectively. And we believe that once the St. Martin people on one side, and we believe the South will probably go first, make that decision, what France wants and what the Netherlands wants is secondary. And we will pursue whatever channels that we have to, once the people have made a decision, to make sure that our 37 square miles are counted among the sovereign nations at the United Nations.
A lot of people are now concerned because after Hurricane Irma and seeing the pandemic, and they want to know, is this the right time to still be talking about it?
Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, what time is not the right time to talk about independence? But here's that conversation about timing, because even the United Nations, and I made a comment on it in my presentation. The United Nations, when they made the declaration on the granting of independence to non-independent countries, they said that inadequacy of political, economic, social, or educational preparedness should never serve as a pretext for delaying independence. Because what has happened over the years, United Nations recognizes this, so there's always a reason to say, they ain't ready, they ain't going. And here's the problem with arguing from that position. When you begin thinking about readiness, you're starting to say to people that independence is something you have to earn from somebody else. A little crazy. Think of independence as United Nations sees it. It is your inalienable right, which means by virtue of your existence, you have that right. And it's a right that is granted to every people, regardless of their political, educational, economic circumstance. That is a right. In St. Martin, the people of St. Martin have not exercised that right yet. And we're saying anytime, because don't forget in the conversation,
when you say they haven't exercised it,
we have not been given the opportunity to determine, not the referendum, I'm not talking about a referendum, to be sovereign. We're not there yet, right? That's the inalienable right that United Nations talks about, and you don't have to do anything other than to have it. So the question is, how do we transition? To me, that's a better question. How do we as St. Martin, when we make the decision to become independent, transition responsibly? For us, we said to Parliament, because somebody asked about the timing, and we said that we foresee 5 to 10 years. That's our lowest end of the bar, 5 years. Highest, 10 years. It shouldn't last any more than 10 years. We believe that once a decision is made to become independent, that within 5 years minimum, but for me it could be tomorrow, that we can transition. We know certain things that need to be put in place, that it can be put in place. But here's a conversation, because you raised the conversation about money, right? You know that we are owed a whole lot more from the Netherlands and France in terms of reparations, number one. And we also know, according to United Nations, that the colonizing country has a responsibility, an obligation to make sure that you going into independence, that you are not worse off than where you were. That's an obligation that the UN members signed on to. So we're aware of that. The Netherlands is aware of that. France is aware of that. They know they have a responsibility. So what we're saying is that once the St. Martin people make that decision, we sit at a table. France, the Netherlands, all our Caribbean neighbors, we will sit at a table and say St. Martin is, and people at the UN, St. Martin is about to become the latest member of the United Nations by this date. Here's how we see our transition. How can you assist?
When you look at St. Martin today, we're the only island in the Caribbean, I think.
Yeah.
There's some other islands like Trinidad and so forth, but we have a lot of different people from all over the world that are now making this island their home. Do you see that as an obstacle?
No. Actually, it's like the United Nations, actually. St. Martin's beauty, if you look at our history from the 1620s, the early 1630s, when St. Martin was settled originally, it was always an eclectic group of people. From the very beginning, that's our history. That's why the St. Martin is so nice to a lot of people. Our history tells us we are a mixed set of people. When the settlers came here, English was the official language, unofficially, because of the mixture of the people that were already here. North America, other parts of the Caribbean. So from our...
But that's the entire Caribbean.
But I'm saying, St. Martin in particular was a very eclectic mixture from the very beginning. So when you look at our history, mixture is our identity. So that's not a problem. For us, what we see as a challenge is not even a challenge, which is one of the things that we need to attend to going into independence. How do we regularize the people who live here? The people who have made this their place, their home. You know, if you're going into independence, you have someone I know personally from Nevis, 40 years. He's lived here longer than I have, because I was born, well, almost longer. I was born in Curacao. He's lived here before I came back from Curacao, right? He has a St. Kitts and Nevis passport, because St. Kitts is his place of birth. He has chosen to keep his St. Kitts passport. But he's lived in St. Martin before I returned with my family from Curacao. Does that person not deserve the right to be here and to contribute and to build the independent St. Martin? What are you going to do with him? Where are you going to ask him to go? Go where? His children, his grandkids are here. So we're saying that's who we are as a people. We want to build on that. We want to embrace all of our St. Martin children, especially our first generation St. Martiners and their families. You have to embrace them, because that's what you're going to use to build the future sovereign state. You're not going to rely on outside expertise to build your thing. You have to rely on what you have.
Well, we're doing a pretty poor job right now, not using our own, because I've said this before, I said a million times now, that every year we send young people into exile, to Europe mainly. They board KLM and they're going into exile. And those that try to come back, they are elbowed and pushed around and made to feel they're inadequate and not important. And you know, sometimes you get politicians with very limited education, but they got elected by the people. And they feel they can push around a Dr. Arrindell or what have you, because who's a Dr. Arrindell, you see, because I got the political power. And if you notice, St. Martin is one of the few islands where we have a government that is, we are governed but by the lesser ones of our peers. Let me tell you, let me finish this here. Just recently I was watching Belize TV, and all the CARICOM leaders came to Belize for a CARICOM meeting. And they were calling off Dr. Arrindell, Dr. this. You know, we're not there yet, but we have a problem on this island. And it started back even with my good old friend, the late Dr. Claude Waddy, back in those days. There was this despise for educated people. They made a joke and really treat educated people not too well. And I'm not afraid to say that. That happened. But today now, it is still happening. So how do you get those young people that be sent into exile? And you were the first Minister of Education.
Try to bring them home too.
But when they come home, we know what happened. So how do we overcome that?
I got your answer, you know, because here's where I think we're not paying attention. And I think I have to look for that report, because Amnesty International wrote a report a few years ago, and it says the problem with St. Martin, it is run by foreigners. I'm paraphrasing it, right? It said that, and when Amnesty International said that, they weren't talking about the Dominicanos, the Haitians, and the Jamaicans who lived here for 100 years with us. The upper echelon of St. Martin is not run by St. Martiners. That's where the educated St. Martiner belongs, right? Here's this. Who's your banker? Who's your prosecutor? Who's your judge? Who is your head of medical pharmacology? Who is where in St. Martin? And not even that, if you go into every minister's cabinet right now, the average cabinet and the apparatus, the so-called legal mind, are foreigners. And when I say foreigners, I mean Europeans. Those are the positions that we believe that our youngsters that we have sent away to study should be filling, right? When you decide to go independent, you've made that decision, because you got to make the decision first. When you decide that you're going independent.
But Dr. Arrindell, sorry to interrupt you there, but I think you're answering that question as a politician.
No, I'm answering you as an educator.
No, you're answering me as a politician. Did you hear what I said?
But that's what I'm saying. I'm getting to your answer, because we keep looking at the wrong place. We say our kids come back and we don't use them. I agree with you there, but where do they belong in terms of usage? They're not going to go front street and go work in the jewelry store or go to Maho to clean and make up beds. You send them away to study. They're either doctors, they're either lawyers, they're professionals. Where are the vacancies in these places that we need to run this 16 square miles? Let's look at that over here, and the other 22. Those are places that are currently spaces filled by primarily Europeans. And when I say Europeans, not everybody is a European, but I'm saying a lot of those key positions are tied to nationality. And when you say all you need is a Dutch passport and a Dutch nationality to get the job, as opposed to saying you need, as a St. Martin, to have preference.
Let me ask you something. Who votes? Do we put Europeans in office, or do we put our own people in office?
But that's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about office holders.
No. Wait,
I'm looking at the positions in the administration.
No, I don't want to start an argument with you, but I can't sit here and hear you talk like that because it's really like annoying. I'm saying who we vote for, a man or woman in Holland, or
this is
people
what
in
I'm
Zimbabwe?
trying to tell you. You're not listening to what I'm saying.
No, tell me who we vote for.
It's not who puts them there, you know. I don't know who puts them. Listen to what I'm saying. The apparatus that you're using.
And how are you going to change it?
But that's what I'm saying.
How are you going to change it?
You have to change it.
Why you can't do it now? We make a priority on that now.
We're not disagreeing that it shouldn't be a priority. We're talking about independence. You're asking me how to solve this problem in independence.
Yeah, but you're answering me. You give me a political answer. And the political answer is not accurate.
Do you want the vision of how we see it for independence?
What is our biggest problem right now?
I don't know. What are you going to tell me?
What is our biggest problem in Zimbabwe today?
You ask me, how are we going to deal with this issue going into independence?
But you give me an answer
so I'm
about...
giving you our vision of how to do it. We are saying...
Dr. Arrindell, look, I said to myself tonight, I'm going to speak with you, and I'm not going to say what I got to say.
Please say it.
But I'm saying, look, I am not a Johnny-come-lately. Everybody knows who I am. I'm a very pragmatic person.
Yeah.
I don't believe in passing the buck.
I agree.
The problem, we have to fix it.
We're not disagreeing there.
Wait. I don't care who's at the top. Whether it's a prosecutor from Europe or what have you, what are we going to do?
That's the question.
Tell me what you're going to do.
That's what I'm trying to ask.
What you're going to do?
I'm trying to explain.
Tell me what you're going to do.
We are going to replace those with ours.
How are you going to replace them?
That's exactly where I was trying to get there.
Get to that point.
Right.
So I got to go to a breakthrough.
Okay, good. You ask. I'm saying when you make the decision to go, and you tell yourself you're going in 5 years. You say, okay, in the 5 years, we need to replace the prosecutor. We need to replace the head of the central bank. We need to replace the head of our airport. We need to replace who's in charge of our banking. These are our St. Martin children that you're bringing home to make the transition. You got to prepare for it based on what you decided. You're asking me who's doing that. That's not a question you asked.
We've had 50 years to do that. You know that?
I agree. We're not disagreeing
50 years to do that.
We are telling you, as one SXM, we have a different vision of how to do it.
All right. I'll tell you what, I got to go to a quick break. We're going to be right back, please.
Yes.
All right?
In order to know what you want out of life, you need to observe, listen, and try it yourself.
Promises, we can make it. If we work together, that's just how it is. Let's stand strong, and serve the land. Working hard as one nation, yes we can.
The more difficult it is to achieve, the more satisfying it is to make it.
Just believe in us, we'll see you through it all. Oh, never give up. Oh, never give up. We can make it.
Never forget those who were there for you. And if you dream big, you might just achieve it.
The power to serve, standing for community. OGB,
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/.
You're watching Oral Gibbs Live with Dr. Arrindell from 1SXM, right?
Yes, sir.
Foundation and for Independence,
Yes,
St.
sir.
Martin. And you know, so we got to solve this problem. We had 40 years as former Nelson Tilly. That's gone. We now have 12 years in this so-called calling ourselves a country. We're still confused with people telling us that we're not a colony.
Yeah.
And what do you think? Are we
I know we're a colony. That's why we want independence, because we know the only...
How do you know we're a colony?
Because the definition of the word colony. Did you ever looked it up in any of the dictionaries? All of them say the same thing. A settler people moves in, administers from a distance. Remote control government.
But
Colony.
I had a deputy governor. He said, look, you got to stop thinking, acting like a colony.
Well, it is sort of. I don't care where you could put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig.
So what I'm saying is, look, I'm challenging you because
I'm good.
if you, in the position you are, you know, you got to be able to take the pressure.
We good.
And the thing is that we in St. Martin, right, we want to talk about something, but at the same time, we are not focused. And you look at St. Martin today, right, and you look at all the other Caribbean islands who gained their political independence. What is different here?
We have not made the decision. We have to make the decision. Here's some of us are not focused.
So the two referendum was not a decision.
No, because according to the United Nations, you could have a referendum. First of all, you lived in the U.S. You've been to parts of the U.S. where you can have a referendum on any topic, anytime, right? There are times when you want to change something, you go, you ask the population. I remember Ebonics was a big referendum in California. I don't know if you were around at that time.
But California is supposed to be the most liberal, but the most craziest state.
But I'm saying, you vote to people on referendum on just about anything at any time.
With the proposition they call it.
The fact that we had two is insignificant to this one that we're asking
So we can have one every 2 or 3 years.
We could have, because we had one in 6 years, right? We did 94, then we went in 2000. So within 6 years, we were like, this ain't working out, let's go again and ask the people.
Right.
So we did that. No, what we are saying is that 22 years later, we think it's time to ask this generation come in, you know, and some of us who will still be around, what we think. And we know we're not going to get caught up in what was, what used to be. We are saying we believe that the St. Martin people have a right to say how they feel about independence. They want them to get that opportunity through a referendum.
Yeah.
And once the vote is for independence, we're sitting at the table with everybody that's involved and saying St. Martin is leaving within 5 years. These are the things that we know that we need to put in place, and we're busy calling home our cubs that are out in the field because we're ready to go.
There's a guy in St. Peter's watching this program now,
Yeah.
and he's saying, what benefit is independence for him? I just got it right there on my WhatsApp.
Yes. What's the benefit of independence for him? He himself, in terms of his personal day-to-day, I don't know how it will change individually, but collectively as a society, St. Martin people will be able to make decisions for St. Martin based on St. Martin manpower, right? Woman power. St. Martin's children that are out there studying, making other people's country successful with their brain energy, with their aptitude, etc., will be able to be home making decisions for St. Martin to become more prosperous. Things that we will do in St. Martin are going to be based on St. Martin's culture, based on St. Martin's position in the region. St. Martin will be able to speak at the UN, but now That man in St. Peter's, his son.
When the Prime Minister spoke at the UN, our Prime Minister.
Well, I don't know about that.
I wasn't
you
don't know that. Our Prime
But I'm
Minister.
saying speak, I'm saying vote at the UN.
Oh,
You
okay.
can't vote at the UN. But that man in St. Peter's, his son can participate in the Olympics if St. Martin were to become independent. His daughter, his son, could be flying the St. Martin flag at the Olympics. He can't do that right now. If there's a discussion at the UN and there's a vote like we had with the Netherlands a few years ago, they made a decision that we weren't in agreement with. And that whole when the declaration on xenophobia and racism was passed, the Netherlands chose to not vote for it. That means by definition, by default, St. Martin is part of that vote. We don't want to be a part of a vote that does not recognize racism and xenophobia in the world, especially against black people and as a people in this part of the world. So the Netherlands and France will be making decisions for St. Martin once St. Martin becomes independent. There are a whole lot of things to gain, and what we look at it as individuals is that when we make a decision to become a sovereign state, it's about a collective body of St. Martiners that are making a difference moving forward.
So political independence is the only way out for us.
It's the only way that your people can really grow, that your people can really expand and be there. Look at it like this. There's nowhere in the human, in the laws of nature, that another species subjugates.
But we're growing. You have
what
a PhD.
I'm saying, no, it's not about the individual getting a degree, because anybody could do that anywhere, right? You, as a St. Martiner, can't decide right now. Your parliament cannot decide that the budget is balanced or not. You don't have that say. There's 4 guys. They don't live here. I think maybe one person that lives here. They make a decision and they're appointed not by me.
But you know who agreed to that?
But I'm not saying that they didn't do it now.
Our leaders agreed to that.
agree with you that our own people have put us in this position. We're not disagreeing on that. What we are saying is that it's time to leave. And we think that there are people out there who understand
all costs?
that. At all costs.
Leave at all costs.
At the end of the day, independence is about you being accountable to yourself and to your people.
So then I'm independent right now?
No, right now you're not accountable to the people of St. Martin. A minister or a member of parliament, when he swears in, he takes an oath to who?
You don't have to.
But to who? Yes, he has to, else he can't get sworn in. And who does he take an oath to?
I know one person who
listen, you ain't telling me I was in the shoe, and I'm going to tell you how my story went down. But tell me, who does he take an oath to? He doesn't take an oath to the people of St. Martin, you know.
I know.
Right. He makes an oath to the king. So even in the election, by the people who elected him, he cannot swear to them to be accountable to them. He takes an oath to the king. Or the crown, so to speak, because there's a queen sometimes. So at the end of the day, when you're independent, you are accountable to the people. The people are really your boss. Right now, we have a parliament, but they can't really do anything. You hear them there complaining about cohort.
What are we going to the polls for if we're not the bosses of the politicians?
Listen, if cohort come, why bother vote? That's why I say, why bother vote?
It come, it's done here already.
But you see why you're asking me if independence is our way out?
So, sometimes I worry for this island because I love this island a lot. But it's not the same island anymore. I used to have a flag. I still have a flag over there too, somewhere now, but it's over there. And people got upset with me because I always say, well, this is the best place in the world.
I still feel that way.
This is just a beautiful island.
Yeah.
But now sometimes you look around, and I'm meeting people, and I said this the other day to someone else on the program here. People from St. Martin, like yourself and I, some came back to St. Martin 30 years ago from parents who were born in St. Martin, from Aruba, Curacao, and so forth. And they said to me,
it ain't the same.
But they said, no, people making me feel like I'm not even from here.
Right.
That I don't
but
even
belong here. But who are the ones making you feel that way?
No, not me. I'm telling you what they're telling me.
Yeah.
And when they tell me who these people are, it's surprising.
And not only that, right? For us, and we've had so far as 1SXM, 2 meetings with the political leadership so far, right? And when I say the political leadership, we've invited people from the legislature, both sides of the island, even people who are campaigning and ain't win an election yet. We've had 2 sit-downs with them so far, and in both instances, we all recognize that the house is falling apart. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to just sit down there and say, well, I'm going to try to win the election as long as I get in? Is that enough? So that's why we make it a point to make sure that 1SXM is nonpartisan. We know independence is a nonpartisan issue, but we're telling our people, together we can do it. Now, not everybody going to play, and not everybody going to play at the same level. That's for their accord. We believe in St. Martin and St. Martin people. We believe. And we know we have the capability. We know that our children can do it. Because my question is, why are we educating them for then? Why are we sending, you say we putting them in exile? If we don't become independent, what's the point? What's the point? They could just stay wherever it is. We're asking them to go away, to get trained, to come back and to build a prosperous, a better place, the way they see it. Because the way they will see it will not be the way I see it, the way you will see it. They're looking at it very differently, but it will be a St. Martin that belongs to St. Martin people. It will be a St. Martin that is made.
Isn't that a problem that we need to see everything through one eye? We see we got to focus, the goal, the direction, the path is one way.
Right.
So maybe isn't that a problem that everybody's seeing things differently?
But it is everybody seeing it together. But you got to sit together and come with a common mission, right? We are going to see it differently. We're influenced by the way we were raised, by our environment, etc.
You ever invited Leopold James on the program?
On the 1SXM?
Yeah. No. There's a reason why I ask you that question.
No.
Mr. Leopold James, came up with the nation building there many years ago. He was way ahead of his time in a way, because no one else in government, nowhere else was really thinking about that.
Okay.
And him and I had some fundamental differences in it, but I must say, he was ahead of
I didn't understand how hard to get that card, though. That was a long story. That ID card.
I know, that's why I said
I didn't think I should have gotten a card.
I didn't want to mention that. But
I want to mention it. That would have been fundamental.
That's where him and I had those real fundamental differences. So it was watered down, but the concept of nation building was very important.
Nobody disagrees with nation building.
Yeah, that was very important.
Right. But not xenophobia, right?
Exactly.
And to me, that's where sometimes the line gets a little blurry. Not that organization was, but sometimes even with what we're doing, you get people who interpret it very...
But isn't it good to speak with everybody?
But that's what I'm saying. We're talking to everybody. That's what I'm saying. Because if we don't speak, they speak on our behalf, and then they tell us what we are about. And we're like, no, that's not how we are. So we invite people to our meetings. Listen, before I left here in 2019, we used to have weekly meetings by my old place, White Soil. Then went and came back. We've had like a number of meetings. Usually we announce our meetings publicly, and we invite whoever wants to show up. Yeah. People show up. Some people you're surprised at where you come from. You drove all the way. People show up because they're interested. Now, we have not gone out individually since we started 1SXM and invited individuals, but what we have been doing on the program is featuring younger St. Martiners in terms of entrepreneurs, in terms of professionals, and so, or if we have a topic and we know somebody in the community who might be a little more versed in it, we bring in that person to have the conversation. So that's how we've been doing it, because we believe that everybody needs to be involved, all hands on deck, and we're not going to stop until it happens. The next generation is going to have to keep continuing. We are not going to stop until St. Martin is a sovereign state.
Is there a common question that you hear from young people?
Well, a lot of the younger ones, we have some young dynamic ones now that are in the regular meeting. One of them has a lot to do with money. How are we going to fund this? How are we're working? So what I've said to some of them, this is your homework. Because we have made some, what we call the think tanks, for different areas: education, for judiciary, for tax, for economic affairs. We did a lecture last year with Regina Labega telling us just before the second COVID lockdown on the value of the airport to the economic development. So we've been collecting information, talking to people. We have think tanks where people who are part of the organization work, and now we're getting ready to write some white papers on economy, on healthcare, on education, on tax system, on judicial system. And we invite people always.
Well, that was good that you brought in people like Ms. Regina Big. Hey, you have a lady did a remarkable job at the airport. Now we need the Dutch government to help us to run it.
And AIM doing a very good job for
So
what
you see,
we
so you see, we going backward.
I agree that there are a lot of people among us, our own people, who are screwing this thing up big time.
Well,
this is why we feel that we need to push for what we're doing.
I wish we had more time, because now I'm getting more hot on this thing. Because yeah, because look, all my life I've spoken about this. People know where I stand. But when I see what's going on today, Dr.
We got to do
Arrindell,
something.
we're going backwards.
But we got to do we sit and complain that we're going backwards?
So I'm doing my part.
I know you do it. That's what we're all doing. We believe all of us got to be involved. But you know what was bothersome for me to hear people sit and complain and you know, government ain't doing this one ain't doing it. You know what my question is always, so what are you doing?
Well, they elect the government to lead, to do
right,
for them.
But
so
what are you doing?
And they get them paid
complain
to do it.
about them, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, while they ain't doing, how much are you doing? So I believe that all of us have a role to play. And the more hands on deck, the better, because we have the capacity right here. Right. We have the capacity here or among our children that are studying.
Well, Dr. Arrindell, I only have 30 seconds remaining. All yours.
As always, well, we want to thank you for the opportunity for reaching out. We want to be able to come back and share with you a lot of what we're doing, you know, and spread the word. Like, we're getting ready now to go into the community with our different community meetings, and we're telling people, look out for OneSXM.
Well, I hope that when you come back, we can have you with some of the others in the rigid part section. And
you would like that?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, so we will look forward to having you sometime soon again, as quick as we get everything up and running.
Whenever you call me, I'm here.
Okay, good. Thanks a lot, Dr. Arrindell. And that's it for now. I'll see you next time. Until then, good night.